On today's show, not the kind of news that we want to hear, but Alex Ovechkin left practice early and did not return.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the horrible news that we hear today that Alex Ovechkin left the ice early and did not return. He was said to have left the ice wincing in pain. Listen, we know that earlier in the summer that he had an issue with his knee that was giving him problems. And this is one of the things that I've talked about on this show is that there's projections out there. And if you are an everydayer of the show, you know that I said that I think that Alex Ovechkin will face some sort of injury. I definitely did not think it was going to be this early. What will it mean for Ovi and the Capitals? I'll talk about that a little bit later. I will talk about Andrew Cristall. I spoke about him not long ago on this show, but he has grand plans. He has set the bar very high that he would like to join the Capitals out of camp. Is that possible? And then a little bit later, we'll talk about the Capitals' ugly jerseys, at least according to a recent poll. But just to get it going here, that was the big news this morning, is that Alex Ovechkin, my captain, your captain, our captain, left the ice early in apparent pain. He was said to have been wincing and did not return. So there's a lot to read into this. Is he in fact injured? Was it precautionary? Was it, just him getting some extra time off? I don't really think that is the case, but there's all sorts of rumors speculated out there already about why he left. We know, like I said, that he faced that knee injury earlier in the summer. Is that something that was exacerbated? I guess we will find out. And of course, I will have you guys covered on Locked On Capitals the entire way. But that was the news that broke this morning. Alex Ovechkin leaves ice minutes after the start of the Capitals' informal skate. The Capitals captain was participating in his first drill of the morning when he appeared to wince and pull back. These are not the things that we want to hear. I mean, the Capitals went all in, made some big acquisitions. Pierre-Luc Dubois ostensibly was going to be the guy to be that first-line center with Alex Ovechkin. We know that Ovechkin's chasing down Gretzky, all of these kind of things. This is not putting the Capitals or Alex Ovechkin in a really great position. The Capital star sits at 843 career goals and is 42 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goal record. Ovechkin left Monday's informal skate session just minutes after it started. Ovechkin had just finished stretching and warming up and was taking part in the team's first drill of the session when suddenly he pulled up and winced in apparent discomfort. Again, this is not the news that we want to hear before the even start of the formal camp, which is going to be on Thursday. After that, he stopped and made his way to the bench, getting a pat on the back before heading to the locker room. And, Father Time is undefeated and all those kind of things that you hear. And we know that it is going to be Alex Ovechkin's birthday tomorrow. He will be 39 years old. And There's a lot of projections out there. I was talking about that the Daily Faceoff thought that he could potentially catch him this season, Wayne Gretzky, and pass him this season. My assessment that he would hit 35 goals. And when I factored that in to just 35 goals, I factored it in because I knew that he was going to be facing some sort of injury. Again, I just did not think it was going to be this soon. He did not return to the ice, and the Capitals continued with a scrimmage on the other rink. It is unclear whether or not he is dealing with an injury or if it will impact his attendance for the opening day of training camp on Thursday. Veterans have off ice testing and physicals on Wednesday. So I'm being optimistic here, Capitals fans, that it was just something precautionary. Like maybe he felt like he pulled something, and the training staff's like, "Hey, Ovi, this where the camp hasn't even really started. How about you sit this one out and see how things are going?" That's my hope. I hope that it isn't some major issue that he's facing that is going to affect his start with the Capitals for the start of the season. That would not be optimal and would put the team's depth to test right out of the gate. As we know, like I said, Ovechkin turns 39 on Tuesday and is entering his 20th NHL season. He returned to the U.S. earlier in the month after spending the offseason training in Russia. And that is some of the things that I've heard is that he was a bit of a return to form, that he's been hitting training hard to try to get in better shape. I think that he is aware and understands, of course, that he got off to his slow start. And in his mind, he's a guy that takes pride in his game. You got to imagine that he wanted to do whatever it took to put himself in a better position to get off to that great start. We will know in coming days. And of course, subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Also, at Locked On Caps, as I will have you guys covered throughout the day today if we have any more clarification on it. But as I record this at 11:07 Eastern, that is what we know, is that he left the ice early and not a good position. I mean, look at guys. This camp hasn't even started, and we're already talking about the possibility that Ovi might not be a full go to join the team. That's not what we're hoping for. I guess it's a good thing that former GM Brian McClellan did go out and make some big acquisitions. He plugged a lot of holes, but I don't think that he felt like he needed to plug the hole of the first line left wing position, as I think that we know that Alex Ovechkin pretty much has that on lock and will until he hangs up the skates. But I wish I had more better news for you guys to start this podcast, but that is what we know for sure, is that Ovi left the morning skate early and not a good position. All right, here. So coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Andrew Cristall, a bit of a unique player who has his eyes set to the sky. He wants to join the Capitals out of the camp, if at all possible. Is that even a reality? I'll discuss straight ahead. You have heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And guys, listen, this is a great deal if you follow a team outside of your market. The FanDuel has you guys hooked up with that 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. That is a pretty sweet deal. Then with YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So there is a transition going on within the Capitals organization. It was one of the oldest teams for the longest time, but is slowly transitioning to a younger team. And part of that was based out of necessity. Last season, if we remember, Nick Backstrom stepped away from hockey indefinitely. TJ Oshie, Evgeny Kuznetsov, all these players that were a part of the Capitals nucleus for years are stepping away. And it's important to have your eyes fixed for the future. As we know, Alex Ovechkin is under contract for the next 2 seasons. And then it's going to be real big changes. John Carlson's getting older. All of these players that have been here for quite some time, well, they're not going to be here forever, as we know. And Andrew Cristall is one of those players to say, hey, I'm ready to take the next step. Andrew Cristall's career goals and challenges. Andrew Cristall is that 19-year-old winger in the Washington Capitals organization, of course, faces challenges due to the CHL transfer agreement rules. He is too young to move up to the American Hockey League and has already established himself as one of the CHL's top players, leaving him with two potential paths for the upcoming season: making the Capitals NHL roster or returning to the Kelowna Rockets for another year with the WHL's Rockets. Now, this is all going to be dependent on the game that Andrew Cristall brings. And if you are an everydayer of the show, you know I spoke about him a few episodes ago, talking about that he has grand plans of taking steps forward. As we know, he wasn't taken quite as high in the draft because, well, there are certain things that he needs to work on. His skating in particular is not quite where it needs to be. So what's going to be interesting at the formal start of camp on Thursday is a lot of these players and Andrew Cristall, what position are they in? And are they going to play so well that he is going to be able to push another guy that's currently scheduled to be in the lineup out of the lineup? There were some depth moves that were made. I'm talking Radish and Duhaime, those kind of moves. And then you take a look at players that are kind of on the bubble. Jacob Vrana, who's on that PTO. Sonny Milano has a lot more to prove. Andrew Cristall has that skill set. He just needs to work on it. And what we've seen from him thus far playing with the Rockets is that he has worked on that game, but is his skating where it needs to be? One of the things that we know for sure about Cristall is that his hockey IQ is through the roof, can make fancy plays, sees the ice very well. One of the knocks against him is sometimes he goes for the fancier play when it's more of a slam dunk right in front of the net, that kind of thing. But in any event, he is a younger man, 19 years old, that he already has grand ambitions of playing in the NHL. And it's an interesting position, and kind of, rules are rules. We can't change rules. But you got to think that if that rule wasn't in place for Cristall, that he would be playing at least at a bare minimum for the Hershey Bears. It's just not going to be the case for him with the Bears anyway this season. Preparation and training. Cristall is determined to impress during the training camp and secure a spot on the NHL roster. That is that enthusiasm. That is that, bravado. That is, just being positive and optimistic, thinking that it is possible. And I admire his optimism. Is it going to be possible? Oftentimes on this show, I reference Alexei Protas as a guy that broke camp because he played so well a few seasons ago. Wasn't necessarily scheduled to play or penciled to be on the big team. So I'm not saying it's impossible for Cristall, though I think it is slightly improbable. He has focused on improving his strength, skating, and overall game following intensive training during the summer. His goal is to make a significant impact during the upcoming NHL preseason and secure a spot on the Caps roster. Cristall has invested considerable efforts in enhancing his skating ability and physical strength to better prepare himself for pro hockey. He worked on developing explosive power and gaining additional way to excel in physical battles on the ice. And a common knock with a lot of the different players out there, the younger guys in particular, if we even see the draft this past summer and the guys that were drafted, Celebrini, you remember Bedard before that. These guys are not very big guys, or if you want to even bring it a little bit closer to home, take a look at Henrik Slapierre and Connor McMichael when they first joined the team and played on the Capitals. One of the knocks on them is they got pushed off the puck very easily because they weren't big. Oftentimes, these younger NHL players, they're not like your Jaromir Jagrs, who are right out of the gate. They're just built like a brick, you know what. So I think that putting on the weight, that is something I think should get pushed to the front burner. I think that nutrition is something that is instilled with a lot of these young players, even before they go pro. It's high protein, low sugar, just a very regimented lifestyle. But one of the things that I think should get added to that is bulking up a little bit, and not to the point where you're just, a massive unit out there. But I'm just talking about that you're going to be big enough that you're not going to get pushed off the puck. There are some big guys in the NHL, veterans that have been in the league a long time, unless you just want to get destroyed into the boards by one of these guys, you're really going to have to bulk up a little bit. So I think that for Andrew Cristall, the right approach, the same thing that we've seen from LaPierre and Connor McMichael before, that's just something that you need to do. And again, something that maybe they should start doing a little bit before they join a big team. And I understand I was a very lanky man growing up. When I was 18, 19 years old, I'm 6'6" and I was like 190 pounds. So I was, quite skinny. I'm since put on some weight since then, but that's what I'm talking about, is that maybe it's a little bit more difficult for some of these younger guys to do it. But definitely skating, working on that. That was one of the biggest things that he needed to work on. So if his explosive speed is a lot better, very good. That could definitely make a difference for him joining the Capitals, and also putting conditioning, putting on weight, putting on good muscle mass, all good things. And one of the big things too is that he runs with a pretty affluential crowd. He trains with the likes of Connor Bedard. He knows Celebrini, those kind of players, that it is advantageous for him to hang around with those kind of players that really know the game well, young players in the league. And I think that if you can kind of look up to some of those guys, and I don't think that Cristall would want to say that he looks up to a Connor Bedard as they were friends, but you know what I'm talking about, that if you can hang around people that have a good eye for the game or are great hockey players, I think that's a good thing. So that's what he's been doing. He's been training with elite players during the offseason. Cristall trained with elite NHL players in Vancouver, including Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, Kent Johnson, and Matt Barzal, with significantly contributed to his development. These training sessions provided invaluable opportunities for learning and growth as he received mentorship and advice from experienced professionals. Hey, I'm here to tell you, I would be all ears. If I was, my goal was to be a professional hockey player, and I had the opportunity to play with the likes of Bedard, Celebrini, those kind of players that were drafted very high, so they know that the market's there for them. If you can learn something from them, and some of that rubs off on you, I think that is going to make your game all that much better. Talking about coaching and support, Cristall has shown remarkable improvement, particularly in his skating and strength. Big things, thanks to the guidance and support of renowned power skating coach Barb Abdulabam. You'll have to excuse me saying her name there. It is his dedication to enhancing his skills and physical attributes that has translated to his on-ice success. As evidenced by his outstanding performance in the WHL's last season, the Caps development staff has closely monitors Cristall's progress and provided valuable feedback to guide his training regimen. So I think that he's putting in the work that needs to get done. Skating, his size, all things that were said to need to be worked on. He is actively doing that. So a tip of the hat to him for being mature enough, to being so vested enough in his future playing professional hockey, that he's taking care of these situations. Talking about international aspirations, in addition to striving for a spot on the Caps NHL roster, Cristall aspires to represent his country at the 2025 U20 World Junior Championship. His determination to achieve this reflects his ambition and desire to further his career while contributing on the international competition. So he still has plans. 19 years old. He doesn't need to fast track it too quick. But if he wants to play at the 2025 U20 tournament, then that would be a good thing. All things to work on your game, I think a good step forward. But talking about the outlook and potential of Andrew Cristall, Cristall's dedication to improving his skills and physical capabilities, combined with his unwavering commitment to his goals, positions him as a promising prospect for the Caps and a potential standout player in the upcoming season. Wouldn't that be one heck of a story, guys? Listen, I know on this show I say you shouldn't pull for players. You should have the best possible guy out on the ice. I'm going to be honest, I'm guilty of it from time to time. Last summer, it was even Miroshnichenko. What's not to love about a guy that's just so happy, loves playing hockey, and has overcome so much? And then Andrew Cristall is another one of those for me that he was drafted. He didn't go in the first round, and there was a lot, some knocks on his game. Some people were questioning if he was real NHL talent, that his skating was no good. He was a smaller man. So what did he do? He fixed the things, or is actively trying to fix the things that were wrong with his game, his skating. That is one of the biggest knocks on his game, and also bulking up so that he can stand up to the rigors of playing NHL hockey. A tip of the hat to Andrew Cristall as being very mature in understanding what it takes to take it to the next level. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, I'm going to talk about this. The Capitals' ugly jerseys. You know, the ones that look a little bit like this? Yeah, a lot of people think they're ugly. I'll give you my thoughts and also what the poll thinks of these jerseys straight ahead. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So I got to be honest with you guys, I'm rather excited about the formal start of training camp on Thursday. It's going to be exciting to see what kind of players are out there, all these new toys that are out there. I say toys, I'm talking about PLD, Mangiapane, these guys that on paper are going to make this team a whole lot better. Are you guys excited as well? And who are you most looking forward to seeing on the ice in game one of the season? Let me know your thoughts. But one of the things that is quite apparent is that around the league, and this is nothing new, I've talked about this on the show before, this isn't the first poll that said it, is that the Capitals home jerseys, these ones in particular, I know this is a t-shirt or a shirtsy, if you will, but the jerseys like that are the ones around the league that are said to be, well, kind of ugly. And in some cases, some people say the worst in the league. Really, I mean, as I look at this right now, I don't think it's the best jersey out there, but I definitely don't think it's the ugliest. And maybe that's because I'm looking at it through Capitals colored glasses, but I think that a change would be the right idea. They're talking about the reverse retros. I love that jersey. Also the W jersey, also this Wilson jersey, which on the back, looks a bit like that there. I like that jersey as well. But I think that it is time to, consider a change in apparel. I mean, it represents your team, and that I think that this jersey in particular is part of a bygone era. I would say that when I think of this, I think of Ovechkin first in the league, something like that. Or, the 2018 season, something of that nature. But I think that the Capitals have evolved, and I think that their jerseys should evolve as well. And I understand some people, they're, what's the big deal with the jerseys? They don't matter. Well, if you don't think that's true, they recently unveiled the Utah hockey team's jersey, and that was met with a lot of skepticism as well. So evidently, people do care a lot. But talking about the Capitals' home jersey rating, in a recent poll conducted by a prominent hockey analytics personality, the Caps' home jerseys featuring the team's hockey stick wordmark has been rated as the worst in the NHL. The poll, which gathered responses from 1,301 voters, utilized a scale of 1 to 10 to rate each team's 24-25 home uniform. The Capitals received an average score of 3.7, placing them at the bottom of the rankings. Specifically, 18% of voters assigned the Capitals home jersey a score of 1 of 10, the highest percentage apart from the Utah Hockey Club, 20%, while 79% rated it 5 or lower. Talking about the top NHL home jerseys, conversely, the Canadiens, a sharp-looking jersey. The Flames, I like it. Sabres, good. Bruins, good. Red Wings, I've never been a big fan of. I think it looks kind of plain to me. Secured the top positions in the poll, with the Canadiens home jersey receiving an average score of 7.7. Notably, 24% of fans awarded the Canadiens jersey a perfect score of 10. Some questions about that. Implications for the Washington Capitals. While acknowledging the limitations of the poll based on varying voter preferences, the results strongly indicate a lack of positive reception for the Capitals' current wordmark logo. Therefore, it may be advantageous for the Capitals to consider a rebranding effort. I do agree with that. I think that the time has come. It was a good jersey at the time. This is not a horrible jersey, but it could definitely stand to be a bit better. Again, a bit dated. I think that maybe they are working on this behind the scenes, and at one moment it'll just be unveiled and ta-da, here's the new Capitals jersey. But I'd like to think that, there's someone behind the scenes who's ever responsible for this is working on this. So this can be the Capitals jersey of the future. We're talking so we can have new jerseys out there for Leonard and Cristall and kind of the face and just the turning of the page from the older Capitals team to the younger Capitals team. That is my take on it anyway. Listen, I want to thank you once again for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.